The apocalypse didn't arrive with a bang, but with a whimper, a slow, creeping horror that caught everyone off guard. People wept, not for the world they lost, but for the faulty security doors that had promised so much. And suddenly, being a delivery courier became the most sought-after job. If you could brave the hordes of the undead to bring a customer a hot bowl of soup, a pack of cigarettes, or even just some tampons, you were a hero. A true paragon of dedication, I thought, to risk your life for a 5-star rating. A man took a crate of Coca-Cola. You are listening. The Last Delivery Man. Streamed on YouTube. Listened to stories with Binh. From my hands, thanking me profusely. I can't believe you actually delivered this, he said, his voice trembling. Are there fewer of them outside? I ignored his question, reciting my usual line. Your order has been delivered. Enjoy. That's me. A delivery courier with an unmatched professional ethic. No, not a courier. Deliverer. My story truly began the moment the world ended. Right as the apocalypse broke out, a voice invaded my mind. It called itself a sainthood system. A chaotic world needs a saint, it declared. You must spread love and hope. Sacrifice yourself to save humanity, to remind them that love still exists. I will help you, and you will become a saint for the ages. I took a moment to process this, then asked, have you heard the saying, in a chaotic world, the first to die is the saint? I was serious. Why a saint and not a sainter? Why does it have to be a woman who sacrifices herself? Why didn't you infect a man? That's seriously sexist. For my defiance, I was electrocuted. Didn't work. The system kept shocking me and I kept ignoring it. Finally realized something was wrong. Wait, it said, its mechanical voice filled with confusion. You're not afraid of electricity. Why aren't you afraid of being shocked? I stayed silent. After a long pause, it started scanning my memories, searching for a weakness. What's wrong with you? You've never been in love. What? Never met your parents? Hold on. You have a friend but only one and he died when you were 14. No, this can't be right. Why was I assigned to you? A saint must have some humanity. You have none. How are you supposed to be a saint? What kind of system is this? I'd had enough of its yammering. What kind of selection process is this? Just get out of my head. You're annoying. Wait, it said, its voice still robotic, but with a hint of uncertainty. Are you Luna? Luna who? My name is Anya. Silence. A long silence. I found the wrong person, it finally said. The person I was looking for, Luna, lives in the building next to yours. The floor and room numbers were the same, so I got it wrong. My apologies. It went on to ramble about how it was stuck with me and that I couldn't get rid of it. I told it I would adapt and ignore it, because there was no way I was becoming a saint. The system panicked. It rummaged through my memories again, and its voice lit up. I just checked, it said. Your only friend, the one who died when you were 14. His name was Ben, right? He's not dead. My heart stopped. I won't force you to be a perfect saint, it continued. Just do a few tasks so I can leave. In return, I'll help you find him. I can't lead you directly to him, but I will give you clues. Accepted the deal. The first step of my sainthood makeover was to spread love by giving away all my supplies to my neighbors. Why would I do that? Yes. The electrocution didn't work. It resorted to persuasion, promising me a clue about Ben if I reached level 3 sainthood. I considered this. Before the apocalypse, I was a food delivery courier. Continuing my job was a form of spreading kindness, wasn't it? And in this new world, what could be more dangerous? I ignored the system's tasks and went back to my old job. My sainthood experience soared. The system wasn't happy, but it was too afraid of me to say anything. Feared I might go crazy and trap it forever. To find Ben sooner, I delivered with more fervor than ever. I went out from dawn until dusk, braving the most dangerous areas just to get a little more experience. If there were a leaderboard for killing zombies, I'd be at the top. One evening, after my last delivery, I saw a dark, curled-up figure next to a trash can. It had floppy ears and looked like a large dog. The system chimed in. Why don't you adopt a pet? It's a great way to show love and also for self-defense. I snapped the necks of the zombies shuffling around and approached the figure. I can barely feed myself, I thought. Where would I find food for a dog? Maybe I should just get the last bit of value out of it and make some dog stew. You'd eat a dog. A saint can't eat a dog. I've eaten rats too, I said. Shut up. The system went silent. I reached down and lifted the head of the dog to find a person. A man, covered in injuries and barely breathing. On his collarbone was a series of numbers, a familiar marking. And those dog ears were real, not a costume. No dog stew after all, I sighed. As I turned to leave, the system's voice returned. Don't go, Anya. He's Luke, the saint I was originally supposed to infect. I must have misjudged you. A fair system, selecting a man to be a saint. You have to save him. The reward for this task is enough experience to get you to level 3 and a clue about Ben. I stared at the unconscious man with dog ears. After a long moment, I lifted him onto my electric bike. I had killed too many people in my life, but for Ben, this would be the first person I'd ever saved. I took Luke back to my apartment. His recovery was astonishing. Overnight, his wounds healed at an incredible rate, with no signs of zombification. I packed my gear, telling him to stay inside. Don't cause trouble. Don't tear up the newspapers. I know I look like a freak, he retorted. But I'm not a dog. I'm a human with grafted wolf genes. And my name is Luke. Doesn't matter, I said, zipping up my armored jacket. I have deliveries to make. He stared at me, then his eyes widened. I remember you. I saw you on the hot searches. The deliverer of hope. The last light of humanity. They said you brought them essential supplies. Was that you? Humanity's hero. A light in the darkness. That's ridiculous, I scoffed. I'm just looking for someone. He saw my cold expression and his voice softened. You don't like people saying that about you? I put on my helmet. It's not necessary. You really are a good person, he insisted, a flicker of admiration in his eyes. I saw those posts and I thought anyone still sacrificing for humanity must be a good person. I knew this area was dangerous. You must have risked your life to save me. He was more of a saint than me. Then go be a hero, I said with a sneer. Why were you out there yesterday? Trying to save someone. He ignored my sarcasm. I saw a man hiding in a dumpster get cornered by zombies. I went to help him. And what happened? He ran off and left you to die, said. Saving people is a thankless, troublesome job. Don't do it, especially not now. He looked me in the eye. But you still saved me. I was tired of his starry-eyed idealism. I grabbed my bike key ready to leave. Everyone who sees me is afraid, he said from behind me. But you weren't. You didn't even ask about my ears. Why? It was a stupid question. I was too lazy to answer. The apocalypse may have been sudden, but I had a hunch it was coming. As genetic engineering progressed, scientists pushed the boundaries of ethics, creating countless abominations. I knew they would eventually go too far, so I had stocked up on supplies. Luke was clearly a victim of a genetic experiment. He was a product of an underground organization called the Shadow Flow, a ruthless group of assassins that specialized in genetically modifying their members. I knew this because I was one of them. Before I closed the door, he ran up to me. I'm a great cook. I'll make dinner. What time do you usually get home, sis? Sis? I asked, a shiver running down my spine. Oh, he said, blushing. I just figured you were a few years older. 19. How old are you? Older, I said. Now get inside. So, can I call you sis? I looked into his hopeful, earnest eyes. No, he yelled. I didn't go on deliveries that day. The system gave me my second clue. It led me to a cemetery now overrun with zombies. I broke their necks, one by one, my three-edged bayonet piercing their skulls until I found a living person in the security booth. She was elegant and well-dressed, huddled in the corner. Her face, though pale and tired, was a perfect match for Ben's. If Ben had been a girl and had grown up in peace, he would have looked exactly like her. But Ben wasn't a girl, and he had died at 14. "Pay attention, host," the system said. "This is a clue. She is Ben's blood relative, his biological sister." With that, I cleared the area of zombies, opened the booth and took her outside. She was still in shock, her lips trembling. "Thank you," she stammered. "I ran out of food. I would have starved to death." She looked at my clothes. "Are you a delivery courier? Why are you here? Are people still delivering things?" I ignored her questions. "Who are you to Ben?" She froze. "Ben? Who's that? Are you sure?" asked the system. "Trust me. The system cannot be wrong." Her confused expression seemed genuine. I tried another approach. "Do you have a brother?" "Yes," she said. "I'm here to visit his grave." "How did you know? Do you know him?" "My brother's name is Charles." My mind raced. Her name was Clara. Her brother's name was Charles. Neither name matched. But her face was identical to Ben's. If Charles was Ben, it would be a huge coincidence, but not impossible. The problem was, she said Charles died when she was a child. He would have been 14. But Clara was 32. The math didn't add up. I took Clara back to my apartment. Saving her still earned me saint experience. The system promised another clue at level 6. As we talked, I learned she had moved away years ago and was only back to visit her brother's grave. He had died in a foreign country from malnutrition and abuse. He was only 14. But Ben died in the rain right in front of me. Charles's death was in winter. The stories didn't match. I felt like I'd been tricked. I refused to follow the system's tasks anymore, killing 5 men who tried to steal my bike, which terrified Clara. The system panicked, promising me again that Ben was alive and Clara was his sister. When we got home, Luke was cooking, using my instant noodles and canned goods to make a meal. "Sis, you're home," he beamed. His eyes paused when he saw Clara. I saw a spark in his eyes, but Clara was too busy staring at his dog ears. I pulled her into my room to ask more questions. "You have a boy living here," she teased. "And with dog ears. That's interesting." I ignored her and asked about her past. She told me she and Charles were siblings from a wealthy family that had gone bankrupt. Charles, to support his sister, went to Southeast Asia to work illegally. He died there, and she received a large settlement from the brokers. She buried his ashes and left the city. She eventually married a wealthy man in the pharmaceutical industry and was finally free of poverty. The only thing that hadn't changed was her annual visit to his grave. I asked her if she had a picture of Charles. The photos were long gone. I asked if she had ever heard of the shadow flow. She looked genuinely confused. I explained what it was. A ruthless assassin organization that trained orphans. I told her about the coded number tattooed on my collarbone and on Luke's. The very number that had made me hesitate to save him. I told her how the organization experimented with genetics, grafting animal genes onto their assassins. Luke was a failed product. His animal traits too prominent. He would be lucky to live to 40. I, a ruthless assassin with no room for emotions, didn't feel pity for him. I had only saved him to find Ben. I talked to the system again. It said the only information it could give me was that Ben was alive and was related to Clara. The two things seemed contradictory, but I was out of options. I could investigate on my own or keep getting experience to get more clues. The experience needed to level up kept increasing. I had been delivering non-stop, but there were fewer orders now. I had to resort to picking people up, a saint's job. In every story, saints pick up people, feed them, clothe them, and then get killed by them for draining their resources. I couldn't understand if pure kindness existed, if people helped others out of the goodness of their hearts, or if they just enjoyed the feeling of being a hero. It didn't matter. I started picking people up, but I was picky. I only picked up girls to avoid betrayal. After I took in 3 girls, Clara asked, "Why are you only picking up girls? You haven't seen any boys." "I have," I said, chopping vegetables. I had to cook for everyone now. "I just prefer girls." Clara put on a compassionate face. "Boys are people too. In times like this, a life is a life. Don't discriminate." I asked the system why it hadn't chosen Clara. She seemed more like a saint. "Don't ask me," it said. "I didn't decide. But Luke was chosen for a reason." "I don't get it," I said. "That's because you have no humanity," the system replied. "Humanity isn't about being cruel or kind. It's the part that makes us human. You don't have that. When you kill, you feel no joy or remorse. You just find it bothersome and do it because it's convenient. I knew something was wrong when I first entered your mind. You're an assassin. Your psychology is different. I didn't want a parasitic system analyzing me." "How far until I reach level 6? 6 more people," it said. "But you're going to need a bigger place." "We'll sleep on the floor," I said. "They won't die." "You keep saying I'm a saint." The system finally fell silent. I started leaving earlier and returning later to find 4 more people. But the apocalypse had been going on for too long. Most people were either dead or holed up. I had to go to the rural areas. After half a month, I finally got my 6 people, including an escaped convict who looked particularly menacing. I just told Luke to keep an eye on him. After all, Luke was a shadow flow victim. He could handle a starved criminal. I got my second clue and decided to rest for the night. As I lay in my room, I heard rustling. Someone was rummaging through my food stash. I continued to pick up people who didn't pose a threat, the only exception being that convict. I assumed he was the one causing the noise, but I didn't act. I wanted to see how Luke would handle it. Soon I heard Luke's voice from the other room. "What are you doing?" Then came a response, but it wasn't the convict. "I was just checking how much food we have left. We're running out, and it's not like we can just go outside and get more." It was Clara. I was surprised she was the one causing trouble. "Don't you trust Sis Anya?" Luke asked. I almost laughed. I had saved Clara, but we weren't close. Why would she trust me? "Why should I trust her, Luke? Can't you see she's not fully present? She's clearly hiding something and not truly concerned with our well-being. She keeps bringing more people back. Don't you see how fast our supplies are dwindling? I've calculated it. At this rate, we have maybe 2 more weeks of food, tops. Clara, Sis Anya brought us here. She won't let us starve," Luke said, his voice full of conviction. "She's a good person. She always has been. Don't be naive." Clara's voice rose. "Always has been. How long have you known her? You were just rescued, too. It's exactly because she's so good that we're in danger. She'll keep bringing people back. The more people, the less food. If they were useful, it might be different, but they're all old, weak women and children. How will we survive in this apocalypse? Are you really willing to waste our resources on them?" Luke fell silent. Clara continued to tempt him. "Luke, I know you're special. When I first saw you, I told Anya your ears looked so real. But I was lying. I knew they weren't fake. And you always wear your hood to hide them, so I'm not an idiot. You're a victim of genetic experiments, aren't you? My husband works in biotechnology, so I know a bit about this. What kind of gene did they graft onto you? I bet it was a wolf gene to enhance your abilities. Anya is just a normal person. She's no match for you. If we kill her, the house and all the supplies are ours. I've calculated it. With the remaining food, just the 2 of us could survive for at least 3 months." It was a compelling argument. Lying in my room, I felt no emotion. No anger, no sadness, just annoyance. But for some reason, I wasn't worried about him betraying me. He was the saint the system chose, after all. Luke didn't disappoint me. "Sis Anya saved you. Don't you have any gratitude?" "Of course I'm grateful." Clara's voice softened, trying to play the sympathy card. If it weren't for her, I'd be dead. But the lives of those useless people matter, and so does mine. She can be a good person, but she can't be a naive one. We'll all die because of her. I asked the system, is this the saint you wanted? Someone who saves people only to be resented and get everyone killed? Don't blame me. You're the one who picked up people indiscriminately to level up. That wasn't my original plan. Luke was silent for a long time before he finally spoke. The first time I saw you, I was stunned. I thought an old friend had come back. Because of your face, I even thought about taking good care of you. But you shouldn't have done this. I remembered the look on his face when he first saw Clara. Clara looked exactly like Ben. The person I knew who looked like Clara was Ben. Who was the person Luke knew who looked like her? A crazy thought suddenly came to mind. I wanted to ask him, but I heard the sound of the front door opening. I stepped out of my room. Luke and Clara were gone, and there were 2 bloodstains on the wall. Based on my years of experience, I knew one person had been cut across the throat, unable to scream. Their blood had splattered everywhere, some hitting the killer, the rest hitting the wall behind them. I didn't believe Clara was capable of killing Luke in one strike. Soon the door opened again. Luke walked in, his chest stained with blood, his claws still on his belt. His eyes glowed a vibrant green in the dark. I had never seen his eyes in the darkness before. He looked at me, embarrassed, and quickly pulled his hoodie up to cover his face. Couldn't sleep, so I went out for a walk. Why aren't you sleeping? I revealed my thoughts without any emotion. You killed Clara. He lowered his head. You heard everything. Do you feel? I cut him off before he could finish his sentimental nonsense. Who was the person you knew who looked like Clara? He was silent for a long time, then pulled me out of the house. We sat on a flower bed outside, under the moonlight. He pulled down his collar to show me the numerical code on his collarbone. You never ask me why I have these ears. Does this number look familiar to you? I narrowed my eyes. What do you mean? I think you know, he said. I was silent for 2 seconds. You know me? Yes, he took a deep breath. I know you. I know you're also from the shadow flow. Luke's past was not so different from my own. He was an orphan, taken in by the organization, and trained mercilessly. The difference was that by the time he underwent his first surgery, the shadow flow's genetic research had become extremely advanced. They gambled on grafting Mexican wolf genes onto him, hoping he'd gain the wolf's physical advantages. He did, but he also developed wolf ears, a tail, and his human ears atrophied and fell off. His eyes glowed in the dark. It was a failed surgery, and his lifespan was severely shortened. He would likely only live to 40. I couldn't accept becoming a half-human, half-wolf freak, he said, toying with one of his ears. That's when Hope appeared. Wait, who? Yes. Her name was Hope. She healed me. She was like me, living in a closed world, and she became my only friend. How old were you and Hope then? Hope was 14. I was probably 12. The first genetic surgery is usually done around that age, he explained. He was about to tell me a beautiful story about him and Hope, but I cut him off. But she died, right? Yes, his face clouded with sorrow. She died. And did your trainer tell you that people like us don't deserve friends? He shook his head. My trainer told me I should live for both of us. After the surgery failed, I wanted to die. I didn't want to live anymore. Pause. In his story, his friend had appeared to pull him back from the brink of suicide, a narrative specially crafted for him. This proved that in the eyes of the shadow flow, he was still valuable. But your surgery failed. You shouldn't have been a qualified assassin. Why did the organization keep training you? I only found out much later, he said. 3 other people went through the surgery with me. 1 died on the operating table, 1 suffered a violent rejection, and the other lost all humanity, becoming a beast. So, even though my surgery was a failure, I was the most successful of the 4. I later had another surgery to remove my tail, But they couldn't remove my ears because my original ones were gone. My wolf ears were my only way to hear. The day you saved me, the homeless man I rescued didn't abandon me because he was afraid of dying. He was afraid of my glowing eyes. He ran away without looking back, so I don't blame him. That friend of yours. She looked like Clara, right? Yes. Not just looked like her, he sighed. She was identical. It's what people thought Hope would look like if she grew up. I looked directly into his glowing green eyes. Luke, I said, do you think genetic technology can make a person stay 14 forever? He was stunned. What do you mean? Nothing, I said. Why did you recognize me? I don't remember ever meeting you. He looked at me intently. We were both manipulated by the shadow flow. 3 years ago I had my first assignment. I saw the target but couldn't go through with it. Do you know why? I shook my head. Because I saw the man say goodbye to his wife and kids before he left. His wife said she'd make him beef stew, and he said he'd bring her a bouquet of flowers. He hadn't done anything wrong. The client just wanted him dead to steal his wife. I couldn't kill him. You know what happens if you don't complete a mission, right? You die, I said. I thought if I die, I die. There's nothing to lose. I knew if I didn't kill him, someone else would. But at least the person who caused that family's pain wouldn't be me. A complete family was all I ever wanted. In that moment, I knew if I killed him, I would also kill my dream, my hope, and my old self. Even if I lived on, I would just be an empty shell. I went back to the shadow flow to wait for my punishment. But what I saw was a beautiful girl with a bayonet, storming into a building no one dared to enter. After that night, the shadow flow fell. No one was giving orders, and no one was chasing me anymore. I was so lucky. I finally started living a normal life. I never became a real assassin. I remembered your face, Anya. From that moment on, I knew you were a good person. You saved all of us in the shadow flow. Scoff. Don't romanticize me like that. At least you saved me not once but twice. His clear, sincere eyes made me feel like I was being poked with needles. I stood up, coldly shattering his illusion. The first time I wasn't there for you. I went back to kill someone else to get revenge. The second time I wasn't there for you either. I saved you to get a clue about that person. I did everything since then. Saving Clara, saving those strangers, being the apocalypse's delivery hero. All for a single purpose. I find you people ridiculous. You always take your naive fantasies and put them on someone else. Then, when you realize they aren't who you thought they were, you turn on them. Don't think I'm a good person. That title is too heavy for me. He stood up, looking confused. Why are we so different? Why? I'm tired of seeing that face, that look in your eyes. Do you think everyone from the shadow flow is like you? An assassin who has never killed anyone. That's more ridiculous than those trashy novels. The people I've killed I can't count. Some of them were just like the man you described. A perfect family, a loving wife and children waiting at home. They all died by my hands. Do you still think we're the same, Luke? You are the real saint. I just pretended to be a good person. Stop imagining things. With that, I went to the trash can, pulled out Clara's body, and took a picture. Luke walked closer. What are you doing? After taking the picture, I threw her back into the trash can. The more I look at you, the more annoying you become. I'm taking this picture because there's a chance our friends are the same person. He died to keep you alive. And I never had a friend again after that. Why? He asked. But I was already on my electric bike leaving. I had planned to leave in the morning, but I couldn't stand being there for another day. The second clue from the system was a supermarket. I arrived just as the sun rose, pulling up the shutter door. Inside there was no one, but a strong smell of blood hung in the air. Dried bloodstains were on the windows, shelves, and even the food packaging. The shelves were toppled, and no lights were on. There had clearly been a large-scale battle. If it was caused by zombies, there would be zombies around, and the shutter door couldn't have been closed. If it was caused by people, I didn't have time to think. A cold, dangerous feeling came from behind me, and I instinctively ducked. I heard a whoosh of air and a giggle. I immediately stood up and backed away. A girl about 5 feet tall stood there with a fire axe, a big, disturbing smile on her face. If I had been a second slower, my head would have been severed. Her floral dress was so soaked with layers of blood that its original color was unrecognizable. Food wrappers were scattered around her feet. She had killed everyone here and taken the supermarket for herself. She swung the axe and charged. I fought with her, but I was on the defensive. I hadn't killed anyone since I destroyed the shadow flow. A day without training is a day you know you're rusty. 2 days without training is a day everyone else knows. I had a feeling this girl came from the same place as me. Her arms and legs were skinny, but she had an unnatural strength. I couldn't think of any other explanation for her power and reaction speed besides genetic enhancement. She was completely overpowering me. The axe was inches from my throat, and she was still smiling. This is it, I thought. Looks like I'm not going to make it back. Just then, a 4-legged creature lunged in from outside, its sharp claws slashing at the girl's ankles. It was so fast I didn't even recognize it until it stood up. It was Luke. The girl stumbled back, blood gushing from her ankle. Luke pounced, slashing at her wrists. I realized he had severed her tendons. She writhed on the floor, and he ran to me, grabbing my shoulders with a worried look. "Are you okay? I'm not too late, am I?" I remembered the 4-legged stance he had used. "How did you get here?" "I ran here, following your bike all the way," he said, nodding. He still insisted he wasn't a dog. I waved him off. "I'm fine." I walked over to the girl and pulled down her collar. Sure enough, there was a numerical code. Luke was surprised. "How did you find her? How did you know she was from the shadow flow?" I didn't answer. I just looked at the girl, who was curled up on the floor, and sighed. "Do you think the shadow flow's experiments were a success or a failure? They trained assassins, but no one is whole. My personality is messed up. Your body is deformed. She's mentally unstable. Are normal people not qualified to be assassins?" Luke sighed too. "We were just lab rats. The successful ones became assassins to make money. The failures were erased." I grabbed the girl's hair, lifted her head, and showed her a picture of Clara's body on my phone. The moment she saw it, her eyes lit up and tears streamed down her face. "Amin," she whispered. I let go of her hair, speechless. Luke seemed to have a realization too. He knelt down and asked gently, "Who is Amin? Is he your friend?" The girl was truly messed up. She didn't seem to understand the question. She just hugged the phone and muttered, "Yen Yen is a good girl, right? Didn't you say you'd come back if I killed 1,000 people? I've killed enough. I've killed enough. When are you coming back?" Looking at her, I felt ridiculous. The person I knew as Ben had told Clara he was going to Southeast Asia for work. He had actually been taken by the shadow flow, probably genetically modified to stay 14 forever. He then became a friend to all of us, a different person to each of us in a separate scripted story, all to keep us loyal to the organization. But the main character in all of those stories was always him. Our teenage years were when most of us underwent our first modifications. Our bodies were in pain, our minds were young and vulnerable. He appeared in each of our lives at the perfect time in a different role. For me, after I started maturing and the organization was worried my beauty would distract me, they had him die in front of me so I would never get close to anyone again. It was my way of protecting others. When Luke was deformed and wanted to kill himself, the organization gave him a friend named Hope so he would live for her. And this girl, Yen Yen, was an excellent assassin with a brilliant body but a broken mind. The organization had Amin get close to her for an unknown amount of time, become her sole pillar of support, and then leave, telling her he would return after she had killed 1,000 people. An assassin's career is short. She would never kill that many. That number was a chain, tying Yen Yen to the shadow flow for life. I didn't want to imagine how many innocent people she had killed after the shadow flow was destroyed, just to reach that number, just to hope someone would return. I silently walked out of the supermarket. Luke followed, still holding my phone. I looked at him. Take all the trash I picked up and get rid of it. I don't want to see them again. And that includes you. He looked confused, not understanding what he had done wrong. Why? The system was more frantic than anyone. Don't you want a clue about Ben anymore? All you have to do is reach Saint level 9. Shut up, I'm tired, I said out loud, not just in my head. Both the system and Luke fell silent. What's this about a saint? Anyone who wants to be one can. Do you really think I want to save these people? I only do it for my own goals. Now that I've found my answer, what's the point? So I can admit how stupid I was at 14. To me, they're all just trash. And you, I looked at him. Even if you want to follow me for the rest of your life, that's your business. But it's best you find a way to get out of my world. You're annoying. The system went crazy, shocking me intensely even though it knew it wouldn't work. Do you think I want to be stuck with you? It's a system limitation, I can't leave. What am I supposed to do? Luke's face was expressionless as he listened. As I was getting on my bike, he suddenly stood in front of me, blocking my way. I swerved around him and sped off. He followed, running on all fours, a blur of motion. Anya, stop. You have to explain. You're not like that. I turned my bike around and aimed it directly at him. I told you, didn't I? Stop with your damn fantasies about me. Stop putting that crown from your head onto mine. He didn't move. I slammed on the brakes just inches from him. He fell onto the front of my bike. If you were truly a cold-blooded killer, you would have hit me, he said. Pushed him away. If I were in a car, I would have run you over. I braked because I didn't want to die, not because of you. If you want to die, go do it yourself. Don't drag me into it. He didn't give up, lunging at me again. I never asked why you became a delivery courier. You must have earned a lot of money from your missions, but you chose this grueling job. I've always had a feeling you weren't what you seemed. Can you tell me why? I was silent for a long time. Finally, I answered. I delivered food as a form of therapy. After destroying the shadow flow, I found myself unable to live a normal life. I was plagued by nightmares, a deep-seated revulsion for everything, and an inability to communicate with people. Even though I knew I was no longer a danger to anyone, I couldn't bring myself to get close. I had enough money to live comfortably, but I couldn't get myself to interact with others. I had severe communication disorder, where I couldn't even fluently order a bottle of water. Some days, I wouldn't speak a single word. I decided to see a therapist. Even with the therapist, I struggled. My mouth felt rusty, and my words came out in a stutter. Traditional therapy didn't work. Finally, the therapist suggested I try a job that required interaction but not deep conversation like food or package delivery. It was a form of self-rescue, forcing myself into situations where I had to interact. It started with me climbing stairs, a blank expression on my face saying, "Enjoy your meal, please rate 5 stars." This went on for 3 years. I could speak normally now, but I still couldn't tolerate getting close to people. I couldn't stand the thought of anyone wanting to be my friend. The words friend would bring back the image of Ben's unblinking eyes, and I would want to run. But in all those years, I never ran and I never let myself. So I would say with a blank face, "You're annoying, get lost." I knew they hadn't done anything wrong. I was the one who couldn't overcome my own barrier. That was my demon. After hearing all of this, Luke was silent for a long time. Then he put his hand on my shoulder. "Let's go find Ben. Let's find your old friend so you can finally be free of this demon." Luke and I returned to the ruins of the Shadow Flow. We traveled across the country to the organization's headquarters, now overrun with zombies. With my bayonet and his claws, we fought our way to the armory. It was mostly empty, but we found 2 submachine guns, which significantly increased our zombie-killing efficiency. After 3 years, I returned to the small building and the archive room. I had tried to find Ben's file before, but I had only looked in Section B. This time, I found the file for a man named Charles in Section C. Seeing his picture, we finally confirmed it. He was my Ben and Luke's hope. He wasn't the same age as us. He was 10 years older, and his true age was what Clara had said. A 24-year-old man with the face of a 14-year-old had gained our trust by pretending to be our peer and had changed our lives. The file stated he had undergone a genetic modification surgery. But unlike us, who were taken from an orphanage, he had volunteered to be a lab rat for money. He lied to Clara, telling her he was going to Southeast Asia for illegal work, so he could have a reason for any potential complications during his recovery. A long time ago, there was a case of a girl named Brooke who was 12 but had the appearance and intellect of a 1-year-old. She didn't age or develop, and was constantly sick. Scientists thought if they could extract her non-aging gene and remove the illness-causing parts, they could achieve immortality. Brooke had been dead for a long time, but some of her tissue and organs were preserved. The Shadow Flow had somehow gotten their hands on these samples and started an immortality experiment. Charles was the first to be tested. After his genetic modification, his appearance stopped aging, and the illness-causing gene didn't manifest. However, his internal organs were still aging. Since his body didn't grow, the pressure on his internal organs increased, shortening his lifespan. The experiment was a failure. He sent all the money he earned to Clara, and the Shadow Flow faked his death and kept him in the organization. He would become a friend to those who needed one, and then, for various reasons, he would die or disappear from their lives. When I saw the file, I realized my past was a complete joke. Luke kept looking through the file, trying to find some clue. "Where is he now?" "I don't know," I replied. "And I don't want to know." "But we have to know," he insisted. "I feel like if you don't see him again, you'll never be able to let go." I didn't answer, just flipped through another file. The other people who had undergone non-human gene grafting were in much worse shape than Luke. Some were covered in snake scales, some had fangs, and some were completely blind. 80% of the organization's members came from the orphanage I had been in. I remembered my 8 years there before I was taken. "Luke." "Yes." "You were in that orphanage too, weren't you?" He nodded. "It was a big orphanage. If the Shadow Flow fell, who would feed those kids now?" He thought for a moment. "I don't know if anyone took over. But there's no point in thinking about it now. Or too late. The apocalypse." Despite this, I still wanted to go back and see for myself. If I had stayed in that orphanage and grown up like a normal person, maybe I would have been a normal person. Luke and I went back to the orphanage. To our surprise, it was still there. After the apocalypse broke out, the army had taken over several social welfare facilities as temporary shelters, including this orphanage. They had cleared out the surrounding area, making it completely safe. The children from the orphanage were still there, but there was a separate section for refugees, so we were able to enter. As soon as I walked through the door, I saw him. He still had the face of a 14-year-old, but he was 34 now. He was coaxing 2 children to eat cookies. His face was still boyish, but his every gesture exuded the aura of a mature man. It was warm inside, but he was wearing a thick army jacket, and every now and then he would cough softly into his hand. Luke and I looked at each other. His expression complicated. He didn't have the same deep obsession with his fake friend that I did, but he had genuinely cared for him. I suddenly didn't want to face what was coming. I wanted to turn and run, but I couldn't. I had never allowed myself to do that. So I walked toward him one step at a time. He noticed us, looked at me, then at Luke behind me, his eyes full of caution and unfamiliarity. He pulled the 2 children behind him and asked, "Are you looking for the headmaster?" I looked at his face, both familiar and strange. In all the time we had known each other, he had never looked at me with that kind of caution. Seeing him now, alive and well, looking at me like a stranger, I finally had to admit it. 14, I was a complete fool. His death had changed the next 10 years of my life, but he didn't even remember me. My communication disorder suddenly returned. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't make a sound. I tried for a long time, swallowing hard before I could finally utter 2 words. Ben. He looked confused. Huh. He didn't even remember the role he had played. Made sense. He had been a friend to so many people with so many different names. How could he remember every single one? To him it was all a show. But I had been stuck on that stage for 10 years. In that moment, I genuinely wanted to kill him. The weapon in my hand was almost out of its holster, but Luke reacted quickly, pulling me away. He was still rational. There were soldiers in the shelter, and killing someone here would get us caught. He glanced at Charles, who coughed again, this time more violently. The children rushed to him, worried. You see it, don't you? Luke said. He doesn't have much time left. Even with the face of a 14-year-old, he's dying. Luke and I went back to my apartment. Clara's body had been pulled from the trash can by the zombies and was barely recognizable. The sick and elderly people I had picked up had all run away. We had been gone for too long, and the supplies were gone. They had to go out and fend for themselves, and they hadn't even bothered to close the door. Do you feel any better now? Luke asked me. What do you mean? He lowered his head, looking at me intently. Do you still feel like you can't have friends? Can't stand getting close to people? You've been punishing yourself for someone else's mistake. You thought you killed Ben, and that guilt turned you into this. But what about now? Has that feeling gone away? I looked at him. Having someone else in my life wasn't as unbearable as it used to be. I was no longer swept away by vague, nameless emotions or consumed by that overwhelming guilt. I was silent for a long time. The system was the one to speak first. You're a little more human now. I ignored it, staring at Luke's eyes. If you don't find it annoying, you can stay with me. His eyes lit up. But not long ago, you called me and the others trash. I just want to see what it's like to live with someone else, I said, thinking. I might still find you annoying and kick you out. And I'm going back to being a delivery courier. He thought for a moment. But the city is almost paralyzed. Where will you get orders? Who will you deliver to? I have to find a way to do some good deeds. Delivering food is my old job. Doing good deeds will help me deliver something in my head. As long as I keep doing good deeds, it will disappear. The system was ecstatic. I'm so grateful you didn't give up. Not only do you want to get rid of me, I desperately want to get rid of you too. Luke looked confused. You've always acted like you were forced to save people. I've always wanted to know what that is. Have you ever seen a therapist? Don't start annoying me this early, I said. I'm easily annoyed. Besides, if it weren't for me, you'd be the one who was forced. That just makes me more curious, he said. Please tell me what it is. Come on, sis Anya. Get lost. The apocalypse was gradually being resolved. The government was slowly regaining control. Countless people had died, the population had plummeted, technology had regressed, and the economy was in a depression. Many areas had been permanently altered and would take centuries to recover. These places were no longer suitable for living or farming. Humanity's survival range had shrunk. But in the midst of a disaster that humanity thought would lead to its extinction, a small flame of civilization remained. Where there were people, there was food. Where there was food, there were restaurants. And where there were restaurants, there were delivery couriers. The number of orders was nothing compared to before, but the system had calculated it for me. With the current workload, we would be completely separated in about 5 years. But in reality, the economy recovered faster than expected, and the number of orders slowly increased. In the 3rd year after the apocalypse, when I had only one last delivery to make to completely sever ties with the system, it gave me another message. I just found out that Ben is dead. At this point, the name no longer stirred anything in me. As I rode my bike to pick up the order, I calmly asked, "Oh really? I thought your reaction would be a bit more intense. I thought you'd tell me I was heartless." On the contrary, sometimes indifference is a form of humanity. Indifference doesn't mean you're completely cold. While you didn't become the saint I wanted, I'm still happy to see your change. After you leave me, will you find a new target? Of course. It hesitated for a moment. It's not like the world is peaceful. It still needs the light of a saint. I arrived at Luke's small noodle shop, picked up the order and set off. The moment I handed the food to the customer, I felt something in my head being peeled away and disappearing. I'm not exaggerating, my mind felt lighter. I decided that from this moment on, I would officially say goodbye to this job. I deleted my courier account, took off my jacket and went back to Luke's shop. He was standing there blankly in front of a pot of noodles, not even noticing that they were overcooked. I waved my hand in front of his face. "Did you get a message?" "A voice just came into my head," he said. "It told me to be a saint." "Oh," I nodded. "Just as I expected. Congratulations. I hope the light of your sainthood shines on this world."